Hey y'all, in today's video, I am going to walk you through step-by-step planning your homeschool year. Let's jump in. First of all, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Kayla. I am a second generation homeschool mom to 3 girls, and we are about to start our 6th year of homeschooling. I know that scheduling an entire year of home education can seem daunting and overwhelming, but I promise you it doesn't have to be that difficult. What I have found that consistently has worked for me is really 3 main steps to follow when you're going about scheduling your homeschool year. Your first step in planning your homeschool year is going to be deciding on a schedule for the year. So what do I mean by schedule? Well, a typical school year is going to be 180 days of instruction or about 36 weeks. So that's 180 days out of 365 days or 36 weeks out of 52 weeks. Most of the curricula that you come across while homeschooling, if they are offering you a full year of lessons or a full grade level of lessons, they are generally offering you 36 weeks worth of lessons. Additionally, you will want to make sure that you check your state's requirements. If there are any oversight requirements for homeschool families in your state, make sure that you check those. They might have a mandated amount of instructional days or instructional weeks that they expect homeschool families to accomplish in any given school year. So how are you going to get 180 days or 36 weeks of instruction time in your year? One of the main benefits of home education is that it's really flexible and easy to personalize to each family's unique needs. So let's talk about 7 options that you have for scheduling out your homeschool year. The first option you have is going to be probably the easiest, and that is to follow your local school district's schedule. Typically, you can go online to the website for the school district or even for a specific school in your area and find their calendar for the year laid out for you. The benefits of following the public school schedule are all of the work is done for you. All the scheduling is already done. Additionally, if you have a lot of friends or relatives who are in the public school system, maybe they work in the school system or they are students, your breaks, your vacations, and your days off will align with theirs. And that might provide you with more opportunities to socialize together. A downside of using the public school's schedule for the year is it's very strict, obviously. Generally, they're going to have, the typical week off around Thanksgiving, 2 weeks off for winter break, another week off for spring break. They're going to have that long, stretched out summer break. Some kids really struggle with something called summer slide because that break is just too long for them to be able to then go back to school and recall anything that they were learning and practicing prior to summer break. Option 2 is going to be 6 weeks on, 1 week off. So 6 weeks of chugging through, doing your lessons, and then that will be followed by 1 week of vacation. And then you'll also get an additional 10 weeks of vacation, and you can allot those wherever you would like throughout the year. This is actually the schedule that my family uses, and we really like it. Your third option is also going to offer you that same flexibility. This option is 4 weeks on, 1 week off. And then additionally, you will get 7 extra vacation weeks to sprinkle throughout your year as you see fit. This option and the next one that I'm going to share with you are really great if you have a tendency to burn out really quickly. Option 4 is pretty similar to option 3, but in my opinion, it's even easier to keep track of. You're going to school for 3 weeks out of every month. So that's 3 weeks times 12 months. There's your 36 weeks of school. That guarantees you at least 1 week off every single month. Additionally, you will have 4 extra vacation weeks that you can use however you want. Having those breaks come more frequently could really lessen your burnout, and it can also limit the chances of your kiddos getting burnt out. Option 4, schooling 3 weeks out of every month, could also be really beneficial for families who have trouble planning a whole year in advance. Maybe you or your spouse have an unpredictable work schedule, or perhaps you or your spouse often have to travel for work. There could be a lot of factors that just make your year a little bit more unpredictable than other families. So knowing that every single month your goal is to just hit 3 weeks of lesson time, 15 days, you can pick and choose what 3 weeks are going to work best out of every month. And it's definitely going to allow for a lot more spontaneity and flexibility. Option 5, this is a really popular one, and it is schooling only 4 days per week. So forget about the Monday through Friday grind. You only want to school 4 days per week. So in order to reach our goal of 180 school days, if you're only schooling for 4 days a week, you're going to need 45 weeks out of the year for schooling rather than the traditional 36 weeks. That leaves you 7 weeks of vacation time that you can sprinkle throughout the year however you see fit. This schedule is awesome if you and your family just really love having a 3-day weekend. It's also great for homeschool parents who might be working. Whether you're working from home or outside of the home, you can split those 4 days up depending on your work schedule. So maybe you school Monday and Tuesday and Friday and Saturday, because all the other days are booked. Option 6 is to school for a straight 12 weeks 3 times. So you're arranging your homeschool year into 3 terms that each last 12 weeks. You can take 5 weeks off between each term. This option works really well if you and your family love to take longer extended breaks. Perhaps you love to travel or take road trips, and so you want your breaks to have that longer duration and give you more time to have your adventures. Or maybe you just need 5 weeks to decompress and plan for the following 12-week school term. That's okay too. Option 7, and our final option, is to school year-round. Honestly, every homeschool family that I've met that says that they school year-round usually means something different by that. In fact, a lot of the options that we went over already could qualify as schooling year-round. But let's say that planning is not your thing. You want as much freedom and flexibility as you can possibly have, and you love being spontaneous. I would encourage you to have an attendance record. I use this one that's already built into my School Nest planner. It helps me keep track of what days we are doing school in any given month throughout the year. Any attendance tracker will do. Just make sure that you're notating the days that you're doing school, and just keep counting your school days until you reach that 180-day mark. I know a lot of families who school this way, and they really just try to keep up their momentum with their lessons when they are feeling up to it and their kids are feeling up to it. And then they can stop and take a break at any time without having to wait for a specific day off or week off or vacation time that they've already allotted into a calendar. So if planning stresses you out and you would rather just tick off the days until you get to 180, you can totally do that. So hopefully you will be able to look at those 7 scheduling options and find one that fits your family and fits your needs the best. If you're just starting out with homeschooling, be patient with yourself. It is a process. You might pick a schedule that you think will work really well and then realize in a few months that, you know what, having breaks more frequently would actually work better for us, or having longer breaks would actually work better for us. Here are some other things to keep in mind when you're choosing your schedule. Are there any obstacles coming up for you this year that you already know about in advance? Maybe you're planning on moving, or maybe your family is dealing with some health problems or a chronic illness. Maybe you have a big trip coming up this year, or maybe you're having a new baby. Try to look ahead and predict as much as possible any times throughout the year where you know homeschool lessons are probably not going to happen. Last year, I had a new baby and I ended up taking 3 solid months off of homeschool after giving birth. Normally, I would never take such an extended break. 3 months is a long time. Talk about summer slide. Talk about getting out of a good routine. But when you are recovering from childbirth and you have a newborn who won't sleep, 3 months off might be necessary. So definitely try to consider any factors like that as you look ahead to scheduling out your year. Once you've picked your schedule for the year, we're ready to move on to step 2. You will need a couple of supplies for step 2. You're going to need an academic calendar printed out. Most of the time, I will go through a couple of these because I'll have a rough draft and then make some corrections and then eventually get to my final draft. So it's easier for me to just print them out, and that way if I mess them up, no big deal. And then once I get things more finalized, I can transfer that into my homeschool planner. The next supply that you're going to need are some different colored highlighters or pins. It's a good idea to have a few different colors so that we can kind of color code our calendar. I also like writing things in pencil initially so that I can erase easily, but you could also use an erasable highlighter or an erasable pen, whatever floats your boat. Go ahead and gather your supplies and then we will sit down and do this together. Okay, so I have my pencil, my eraser, and 2 different color highlighters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start marking out my weeks. Now, this is going to vary depending on which schedule you've chosen out of the options that we just went over. But for me, I know that I want to do 6 weeks of school on and then 1 week off. And for us, I know that I want to start the first week of August. So in pencil, I generally just start, and then if I need to erase things and play with them a bit more, I can. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is my week 1 for school. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would mean this would be my break week. And then I'm just going to start that process again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have a break week here. And I think since this break week is already falling towards the end of December, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 weeks off. This is sort of a traditional time that a lot of people would take a longer winter break. We don't necessarily need the 2 weeks consecutive at the end of December, but I know that my husband will probably have a couple of these days off of work for the holidays. So it just kind of makes sense for us to go along with that and take these 2 weeks off, and that way we can have some extra time with him. I'm also going to go ahead and note January 1st because that is New Year's Day, and I know that my husband will also be home that day. That leaves me 4 days to school this week, and I'm going to go ahead and count that as a school week, as my first week back after this break. So right there, I already have my 36 weeks of school because I have done 6 of those 6-week terms. So that would leave me, if I chose to do so, a really long summer break, the last 2 weeks of May all the way through June and July. Now for us, we don't really like taking a long break in the summer. And so what I am actually going to do is I'm going to add some additional weeks. That doesn't mean we will necessarily need them and use them, but at the same time, I know we still have some things left over from our previous school year that we didn't quite finish or get to. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw in some extra weeks for us. And that way we have ample time to sort of wrap up some curricula that we've been working on. If you get to this point where you have a longer break during a period of time where you don't really want a longer break, but you also don't want or need to add any additional school weeks, what you can do is just count the amount of weeks that you have left over and then go back and redistribute those throughout your year to give yourself some longer breaks. Obviously, all of my breaks so far are only 1 week long, with the exception of December, where I have 2 weeks. So I definitely could have given myself more substantial breaks with longer durations. And then I wouldn't have ended up with, these 8 or 9 or 10 leftover weeks in the summer. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this last term just 5 weeks long. And then that will leave us 5 weeks off just at the end of summer. So it's still a nice chunk of summer break, but it's not, 10 or 12 weeks. 5 weeks is manageable for us. That will give me plenty of time to plan and prep and rest and recuperate before we start our following school year, which will be again in August if all goes well. And if for some reason things go awry, if somebody gets sick or something comes up unexpectedly, I can easily reference this and see how many weeks or days I have that I can be flexible with. So, for example, let's say that this week in October was supposed to be the 6th week in my term, but all the kids are sick with a stomach bug for this whole week. Well, we can just take that week off. And then if we want to take the following week off like we had scheduled, that's fine. I will just take that week and pull it from my July break. Or I can skip this break week in October and move my week there instead. So it's definitely helpful to just have it all out on paper so that you can kind of see where your time is going. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with highlighters and just make those days and weeks off even easier to see, and then contrast that with a different color for our school days. My pink highlighter is actually running out of ink, so I'm just going to switch to orange really quickly. And then just so I don't forget, I don't think I will, but just in case, I am going to make myself a little key here. So I will write school days and breaks. Once you have this done and you have reworked it the way that you want it, we are ready for step 3. Depending on your kiddo's age and understanding, you might also want to make a copy for them to be able to easily reference. If your child's a bit older and they have their own student planner, this would be a great thing to include in their student planner as well. Now you could easily stop here. Until this year, this is really all of the yearly prep that I would do as far as our homeschool schedule. But this year, I actually added in an additional step that I have found to be really helpful for me. So if it's helpful for you, come and join me and we'll do it together. Step 3 is actually going to be filling in your content for your homeschool year. This will be really helpful if you like to use a unit study style approach in your homeschool, or if, like me, you just really want to know what are we going to be learning about in August. That way, if I need to go get library books or look up a craft or plan a fun recipe, I already know in advance, this is what we'll be covering in history. This is what we'll be covering in science. I find it really helpful to just have the big picture themes for each month. Also, if like me again, you are picking out novels or chapter books to enjoy as family read alouds, or maybe you're trying to plan some literature unit studies, it can be helpful to see where those might tie in best throughout your school year. This is also a great opportunity for you to plan out any additional special units that you want to include in your year. Maybe you want to do a special unit study around a specific holiday or family event. Like, you know, you're going to be traveling to the beach, so you want to throw in some beach themed reading or learning or worksheets. This is a great opportunity to get that big picture overview for your months and your year down on paper. So for this final step, you're going to need a few different things. You'll need your academic calendar. I like using these small square sticky notes because they fit really well over the month. If you don't want to use sticky notes, you can just have a piece of scratch paper where you're jotting down what you'll be covering in August and then September, October, and so on. You'll need a pencil or a pen. And then the last thing you're going to need are any study guides, teacher's guides, schedules for your main curricula that you're going to be using. For us personally, these are the things we're going to be using family style. So I know that these themes will apply to everyone. I'm not going to jot down what my kiddo is going to be learning in math in August or what grammar we're going to be covering. Usually with those types of core subject components, I just have my kid do the next lesson. There's not a whole lot of planning involved. So what I'm looking for in terms of the themes and topics I want to note for each month are going to be the units we're covering mainly in our history and in our science. And then I'm also going to notate our family read alouds or any literature units that we're going to have for any given month. Just as an example, this is our history curriculum. Sometimes curriculums will have weeks listed, like week 1 through 36. History Quest doesn't do it that way. They have it by unit, with these Huga history units in between where you're really just supposed to be focusing on literature. So I have to actually go in and count these out, 1 through 36. So for this curriculum, it looks like it's going to be about 33 weeks of lessons. I know I have 5 weeks of lessons in August. What are my first 5 units in our history curriculum? And then on my sticky note, I can jot down, okay, we're going to be learning Islamic innovation, Middle East, lit. So that's what we're going to be covering in August for history. Now for science, I have this weekly subject list that shows what we're going to be studying weeks 1 through 36. So again, I know that August is going to have 5 weeks of instruction. So for those 5 weeks, we're going to be learning about Earth's core, caves, volcanoes, the atmosphere, the structure of the Earth, plate tectonics, earthquakes, deserts, water, oceans, rivers, glaciers. I'm going to just summarize all of that with earth science. Now I can take that sticky note and put it over August. And I know that these are the main themes and topics that we're going to be learning about as a family. And so this is basically what I've done for all of the months for our school year. So I'm going to show you what the finished process looks like after I have all of our themes written out. So this is my homeschool planner for the 2023-2024 school year. If you saw my video where I was setting up the planner, you might already be a little bit familiar with these spreads. I think in that video, a lot of this was still in pencil, and I've since gone in and written a lot of it in pen. Basically, what I came up with are 2 corresponding calendars. So on this side is my academic calendar. The final version of this has been transferred here. So I have all of my school weeks listed. I have my breaks squared off. And I did go ahead and square those off in pencil just in case I need to change anything or rework anything. And then on this side, I went ahead and noted what we were going to be studying as a family on any given week in any given month for the school year. So for August, I have my 5 weeks of instruction that I know I'm going to get in August. I went ahead and noted what civilizations we're going to be learning about in history. I noted earth science, and you'll see that we are doing earth science for about 3 months in a row. And then I also noted what literature we're going to be covering. And you'll notice with this side, I actually numbered the weeks straight through 1 through 36. And my year actually extends because I added some extra weeks. So I actually have 41 weeks of instruction time. And they're listed like this on this side, but then they're broken into those 6-week chunks on this side. So I have both as a reference point. You can also see that I noted when we'll be doing our exams. I have some winter exams about halfway through the year. And then since July is wide open, we can do our final exams in July. Doing exams is a brand new thing for me. This is the first year I'm trying to implement that. So definitely stay tuned, and I will be sharing more about that in the future once I have a better grasp on it. But yeah, this is what I came up with for planning out my school year. Obviously, this is very personalized for me and my family, and yours might look very different. Hopefully now you have a lot of options and a little bit of inspiration to get you started as you plan your homeschool year and really personalize it for your family's needs. I hope you and your family have a wonderful homeschool year, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye for now.